Hello, everyone, and welcome to Estella's Intuitive Chamber. So, this is an episode basically looking into the energy of the first week of December. So, tomorrow is Monday, the 1st of December. We're getting into the holiday cheer. Ooh, I cannot wait. There's something weird about Christmas. It's like you're supposed to have all this holiday cheer and you're supposed to be all happy and jolly and this and that and blah blah blah, but most people feel really depressed during holiday season. And it makes a lot of sense. First of all, it's the coldest time of the year, at least in Europe. It's dark, it's miserable, it's so cold. It's one of the most depressing times of the year for the majority of people, because in today's economy, a lot of people struggle financially. Let's not lie to ourselves. Let's be honest and see the world for what it is. A lot of people struggle financially. There's an economic recession, as you can tell. So, most people, they're not really looking forward having to go bankrupt, to sit at a table with a bunch of people from their family that probably don't even like and have to pretend that they like for, like, I don't know, a couple of days to a week. Obviously, there's lovely families out there and that enjoy Christmas. It's the happiest time of the year. They're like almost like shoving this happiness down people's throats. I feel that for a lot of people out there, and if you're listening to this, I feel like it could be a very lonely time of the year for you. A lot of people spend time alone and they have no one to turn to. They have been forgotten by family members, by friends, or by partners. Like, I always like to think about the people that struggle, that and I'm not trying to make this episode depressing or anything like that, but I always try to think about the people that don't have a lot, that struggle. For them, Christmas isn't a happy time of the year. So tomorrow is the first week of December, December 1st, and we are entering this season with so we're entering today's day with Moon in Aries, trine Mars in Sagittarius. This is a fiery, fast-moving energy. It's the kind of energy that makes you wake up from bed with this sense of urgency, motivation, and a little impatience. I have to be honest. It's a very impatient energy. I mean, you put Moon in Aries, very impulsive, very impatient, very like blunt, and you couple it up with Mars in Sagittarius. It's very fiery, very blunt, very tactless almost. So this is like your inner fire finally lighting back up. It will give you like motivation and energy, and you'll like get straight from bed and get things sorted and get things done. We want to act, we want to initiate, we want to do something, because like we don't feel like sitting on our asses and really doing nothing. So this is the kind of energy that opens up with Monday. The moon also conjoins Chiron. That's going to be later in the day. So the first time, like the first beginning of the day starts off as nice. There's a lot of like there's this like boldness, there's this impatience, moving, acting, doing things like, let's go out there and do this, let's get this thing sorted. Towards the latter part of the day, the moon will conjoin Chiron, which means sensitivity is sitting right underneath that confidence. So what's happening? It's something steering the confidence. Something happens steering the emotions, steering the confidence. Some of us may feel bold 1 minute and emotionally triggered the next. We might feel like everything was just fine all of day, and suddenly, bam, something happens, fucking triggers the shit out of you. And what do? You lash out. You have a very intense emotional reaction. And that doesn't help, because with the moon squaring Jupiter in Cancer, there is a tendency to overdo it, to overreact, to overpromise something. You're feeling like emotionally stretched out. It's a mix of enthusiasm and like insecurity and vulnerability all at once. So as I said, the first part of the day, excellent. The second part of the day, like something happens, really triggers like an intense emotional reaction. It triggers like an intense level of insecurity. Anger is like impatience. You're almost like banging the table. You're like, why isn't this happening the way it's supposed to happen? Why is there all this delay? I'm just sick of that, that kind of energy that I'm picking up on. Now there's the big shift. Venus enters the sign of Sagittarius tomorrow. So we already have the moon, Mars in a fire sign. Now we have Venus in Sagittarius at the same time. So it's like, whoa, fireworks will be flying. So with Venus and Mars both in Sagittarius, so the theme becomes those of freedom, adventure, exploration. Venus in Sagittarius is, they call it like the astrology cheater, the like cheater aspect, because Venus in Sagittarius does not like to be pinned down by anyone or anything. They hate clingy people. They hate people that are overly dependent on them. They like to have like their own personal freedom. So, as I said, they don't like to be tied down, emotionally micromanaged, or clingy people breathing down their necks and stuff like that. So this is a major contrast that we have from the obsessive, clingy, kind of all for nothing vibe we just had with Venus in Scorpio. It's like a completely different thing. And because Venus is still opposing Uranus, the planet of unexpected things, so there's a strain around the way we view traditional relationship structures. For example, many people may crave more independence, more space, more personal autonomy. It is not about leaving someone overnight and putting everything behind and saying, honey, I've had enough of your shit. I am leaving tomorrow. Even though a scenario like this could very likely happen. But I'm going to tell you, let it not happen, because you might be acting out of impulse right now. Basically, as I said, it's not about leaving someone in the moment, in the heat of the moment, which could happen, but it's about kind of like letting yourself breathe again, kind of giving yourself time to be with yourself, reconnecting with your individuality, your personal passions, your curiosity, like who you used to be before you got into the relationship, kind of exploring, like kind of shining again from when you first started dating someone or where you decided to commit yourself. Like, who were you before that? Kind of evaluating that side of who you used to be before you came into a relationship. Also, with Venus opposed Uranus, there's a tendency that major dramas could happen, like flirtatious behavior could be on the rise. And because it's holiday season, like people could get drunk, they could like go on like work parties, and they can like get into really weird situations with like can cause friction in a marriage or relationship per se. So mostly those signs that will be affected by that, I would say, would probably be Sagittarius, for sure Taurus. I'm not gonna like for sure Taurus. So definitely Sagittarius, Taurus, Virgo, Gemini, and Pisces could get like caught in the middle of this Uranus opposed Venus energy. So if you're any of this sign, please watch out and behave. Oh, that's all I'm gonna say. Really behave. And finally, as you know, Mercury was retrograde for the last 2 weeks. Now, Mercury and Saturn have both gone direct, which is excellent. I can already feel this energy. I swear to God, I felt like so tired the last couple of weeks. I could barely get myself to do a video. I could barely get myself to do much. I was just like, there was this heavy energy just floating around me, sort of like I felt like hindered from like doing things. Everything felt so difficult. A Saturn, direct is great because it finally gives us like clarity about responsibilities that we have, because it's a responsibility that we were avoiding during Saturn retrograde. Now it's like, well, I've got to look after it. There's no avoiding it. That things that felt stalled or blocked begin to move finally, because honestly, for me, this energy was very frustrating. So, and with Mercury direct, obviously communication eases up, misunderstandings are clear, they disappear finally. And, the delays in travel that we were seeing, or delays with paperwork and things like that, they finally kind of begin to resolve and they become clear. And the endless bureaucracy that pisses you off so much, like it finally becomes a thing where you're like, well, finally I have received this paper. Finally I have been told what the problem is. Finally now I know where I'm standing, so I can actually freaking do something about it. How will I say this? It's like the cosmic traffic lights, they finally turn green. Then, the 2nd of December, we have Moon in Taurus. We have this very like slow, grounding kind of energy. We want to sit down and chill and have some nice food and enjoy time. We go a bit slower. But then December 3rd, the moon will be in Taurus and it's going to conjoin Uranus retrograde, but it also will be on the like very last degrees of Taurus, which is also where the fixed star Algol is sitting on the 26th degree of Taurus. And with Uranus retrograde, I don't really know about this energy because it's creating a very unstable, unpredictable, emotionally charged tone. Taurus usually normally kind of craves stability, but Uranus always brings surprises, unwanted or wanted surprises. Could be something good, could be anything, but for sure it's going to shock you. You can expect sudden mood shifts, financial changes, unexpected messages, kind of intuitive flashes as well, because Uranus and the moon together, they do give a lot of kind of intuitive strikes of random things that suddenly come, or like very unusual dreams, or things that make you feel a bit like out of sorts. It will definitely feel very chaotic, especially since it happens a day before the full moon in Gemini. And here's when I'm a little bit like, I don't know about that, because okay, the moon in Gemini will happen the very next day on December 4th. And when I saw this aspect, I was like, oh, okay, well, moon conjoined Uranus retrograde, fixed star Algol, and a day before the full moon. I think the full moon itself won't be as dramatic as the day before. And it's just a feeling I have right now. Speaking of the full moon in Gemini on December 4th is, well, Gemini, you know it yourself if you follow astrology, if you've been following my channel as well. Gemini is all about information, communication, mental stimulation. This is the kind of full moon that brings clarity through conversations, news, realization to, connecting the dots, because Geminis are really, really smart in that regards. It can also feel like mentally overly stimulated, information overload, too many messages, too many thoughts, too many options, too many like news, and that there's no way that something isn't going to be announced during this time, like some government scheme or something that pisses people off, and then people are like, what the hell do they mean? Oh, it causes kind of a bit of an uproar, more with the information overload than anything else, because and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to comment on that and give their 2 cents, and it's going to create such an information overload. I think what is also possible that it's going to be some type of like internet crash, or like some apps will be, because people are going to go mental with like trying to communicate to each other and sharing news and sharing reels and going crazy on social media that day. I think it's going to create a little bit of an overload in terms of information and news, and it could very well happen that it could cause like an outage of technology, or like internet pages such as Instagram, Facebook, X. They could like for a few hours that day, they could like go down temporarily until an issue is resolved, because of how intense this energy in Gemini is going to be. And let me tell you, it's going to be pretty intense. So brace for that. If you don't want to deal with this, maybe it would be the best you turn off your internet, you log out of your social media, turn off all messages, notifications, and just have a really, just have a chill day for yourself. Maybe read a book or watch a very informative documentary, or make some research, like do something really nice for yourself. Maybe go have coffee with a friend, or go have a walk and talk to someone, like rather than just reading all this freaking news. At one point it could be a lot of fun, but at the same time it will be quite chaotic. And I do predict that, because Trump is a Gemini, and I think it's going to heavily, like there's going to be something involved in him, and kind of like I feel that he might lash out next week, the first 3 days. He will definitely lash out, he will make a scene, or he will say something that maybe he shouldn't say, and it's going to cause a lot of turmoil. Probably it's going to heavily affect him. He's going to be so like, almost like I almost see a scene that kind of repeats itself, almost as if a reporter asking him like something, and he says, what if anything, what if a bomb falls out of the sky, what if anything, that kind of like I've had enough of your questions. I've had enough of your shit. Like, just leave me alone. Shut up. That kind of, I'm picking up on that energy, and it's surrounding Trump a lot, but it's surrounding everybody else. So, an information overload. And I see a lot of people kind of like being, oh my God, what just happened? What do you think this is? Do you think it's like a government conspiracy? Do you think it's that? Do you think it's this? There also will be like, because Venus is opposed Uranus, and the energy of like a sexual scandal, the energy of like cheating, the energy of like a big person breaking off or something going wrong in someone's marriage, it's still, there's still this energy, it's still lingering. So very well, we could see something like this still like being mentioned or talked about, and it's gonna really overwhelm everyone. Like it's an energy that's like, it's fun and it's communicative and it's great, but it's meant to like overwhelm the one receiving information, technically. You know, Gemini full moon is fast, it's restless, it's mentally charged, really. And then continuing on December 5th, we still have the moon in Gemini, but it will move away from all this shebang of full moons and Uranus. So energy kind of like still very stimulated and still very like charged mentally, but a little less than the day before the full moon. If you're working in law enforcement, and I would say particularly if you're a nurse, a doctor, a healthcare assistant, or whatever, and you're working in a psych ward, I feel like a lot of psych patients are going to have quite interesting episodes, and I wouldn't be surprised if the psych ward becomes full during this time, with people maybe hearing voices more. They're, they're reading information and getting extremely paranoid or irritable or explosive, like bouts of explosive anger. And I also see a lot of verbal violence during this time, so I wouldn't be surprised the psych ward has quite an interesting night on the full moon night, sadly. So if you're a healthcare worker, you will understand what I'm talking about, because I'm sure every full moon is very similar to that. Now then, December 6th and December 7th, the moon enters the sign of Cancer, much calmer waters. I have to say, December 7th, the moon will conjoin Jupiter in Cancer, and it's going to make a beautiful trine to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and Black Moon Lilith and Mercury. Once again, the energy of spiritual alignment, truth, honesty, and balance. If you do like to play the lottery, I would really recommend, if you're a water sign, to play the lottery, because it's going to bring two lucky circumstances for water signs in particular, and for earth signs as well. And maybe on that Sunday, work on your spiritual alignment. Try to channel if you can, because you could receive really interesting messages. The dreams will be wild as well. And work on your creativity, because on that day you might have the most inspiration than ever. This is all from me for now. Thank you for listening, and thank you for following me. Thank you for watching. If you do like this content, please click on like and subscribe. And I hope you have a good rest of the next week, and happy holidays. And I'll see you again with another video. Thank you so much. Goodbye.